Yo, what's going on? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Hey, so I just checked out Scream 6. This is the spoiler-free review. If you want to talk spoilers, maybe you've seen the movie, go check out my channel where you can find the spoiler review. This will be spoiler-free. This episode is brought to you by wordy.com and vidmondo.com. These are both sites by myself, uh, for social media sharing and content sharing, video sharing. Go check it out. Now, here it is, folks. My rating of this film is a 6.8. I thought that it needed a lot of work. I felt like the film was rushed. It did not come across as a polished movie. And I know that the hype around the film will cause a lot of reviewers and people to give this a higher score. I even checked out Rotten Tomatoes, where the critics gave it a 75%, which is higher than I would have given it. I would have given it a 68% at the absolute maximum. And then you had the audience give it a 95%. What in the world was people watching? I mean, are they paying for reviews now? Like, I don't understand. It's just not possible that a knowledgeable horror film and someone who's a fan of the Scream series could have given this a 95%. It's just not. I'm not. How is that possible? Like, are we seeing this through the same eyes? I don't know. All right. So the intro. I won't go into any spoilers, but I will say it was pretty cheesy. It was not well done. It seemed rushed. Now they did go for this really over the top concept, which in theory makes sense. In theory, it's a good idea, but the execution of it was terrible. Okay, so I don't know if that makes sense. It's like the idea was clever. The execution and how they framed it and how they shot it and how they choreographed it was bad. Okay, the kills were rushed. A lot of rushed stabby stab. It's only like you lose the you just lose something from stabs these days. I guess because we're in a different time frame. We're no longer in the 80s and the 90s. So like the stab, I guess they had to figure out a way to make the stabs over the top. They tried everything. They went for stabs in the face. They went for stabs in unorthodox places. They thought that maybe the audience wanted quantity. So they just couldn't find the right balance. Either they stab people in very uncomfortable spots or they just overdid the stabs. It just didn't, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's a timing thing that we've seen every possible type of stab out there. We've seen a doll stab people. We've seen everything stab something. And it's just like it just didn't land for me. The killer or killers reveal. Ah, listen, again, no spoilers here, but very underwhelming. I'm going to give it 2 thumbs way down. Who thought of these? Who thought of this? Why was this even a possibility? It felt very rushed, very shoehorned. And the last time I felt this way about the killer or killers was when I watched Scream 2. The way that I felt about this film is the same way I felt about that film when the killer or killers was revealed. I just like, why? Well, that's the best. What is this? All right. Anyway, pros. The setting was amazing. I love the New York backdrop. They did so much with it. But I do feel like they missed the bar when it came to making New York feel authentic. A lot of the kills that took place, it just that didn't make sense because the police response was like next to nothing. If you've ever been to New York, if you ever seen New York, if you know anything about New York, police, they're like everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. It's people everywhere. It's stuff happening everywhere. You're not going to be able to just stab people in New York over and over again. You might get away with it once, but not one person or one group of people are not going to just go on a stabbing spree in New York. It just, I mean, I know, Son of Sam, all that stuff, but it's just like it's just not happening in this time frame with all these cameras, all these cell phones. Forget about it. So they missed the mark on that. Cons. I can't say this con, but I do talk about it in my spoiler review, so go check that out. Going back to the pros, there's a theater in the movie, and I really thought they did an amazing job with this theater. I think in the film they call it a shrine. It is very well executed. It gives you a amazing look at the history of the series, and I thought this part of the film was well executed. All right. Cons. I don't know if this is a spoiler, and it may be. But I will say it though. So don't get mad. Too many survivors. I won't go into who survives, but just way too many. Not realistic. All right. Pros, back to that side. The tension at every drop, you're like on the edge of your seat. I'm trying to be very diplomatic here. I'm not really being truthful. I'm not really on the edge of my seat, but just play along. So I was on the edge of my seat a lot of the film, a lot of tension, right? A lot of tension. But yeah, a lot of tension because I was expecting to see something, and you have to watch my spoiler review to find out whether or not I saw it. All right, back to the other side. I can't say this because this is a spoiler. Go check out the spoiler review to figure out what I'm talking about. In terms of sequels, all right, keeping the spoiler free, there has to be a Scream 7. They alluded to it several times. I believe that they should go the way of, that's a spoiler. I can't say that. All right, go watch the spoiler review. I can't say my second sequel possibility. I can't say my third sequel possibility. And I can't say my fourth sequel possibility because Sydney is not in this film. Maybe they can do more with the Sydney character. This is my fourth sequel idea. I won't say the first three. Sydney's character could possibly make a return. She was not in this film. I don't believe that's a spoiler. I think it's common knowledge by now. And perhaps she can finally bite the dust because she's been a crazy survivor in all these particular films. Or they can do something even crazier, make her the killer. She's gone in part 6, maybe part 7. Bring her in, and she has a mastermind. She has masterminded this entire situation. She's been through so much of it. She survived all of it. Who better to cause chaos than Sydney? All right. In terms of rankings, this is my last particular point in this video. Let's rank all Scream films right now from 1 to 6. All right, I'll start with number one. Number one for me is Scream 1. It has not been eclipsed. It is Wes Craven's baby. He was definitely very involved in Scream number 1, and that's why I still believe it has yet to be eclipsed. The revelation of Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, I think his name was, that was groundbreaking. Even by today's standards, that reveal still holds up. And I know I'm not lying because look what it's done. It's spawned 5 sequels. And I'm telling you, each of these sequels is living off the backs of Scream 1. Scream 1 was so amazing that it's still able to generate interest in 2023. So shout out to Scream 1. Scream, I should say number 2 in my rankings is Scream 2. I thought that they did a pretty decent job with the way that they followed up. I loved Randy's little rules, like, hey, here's the sequel, it's bigger, it's badder. It was amazing to see that. I wasn't a big fan of the killer reveal, but overall, I thought Scream 2 was a really, really successful successor. Number 3 for me is Scream 4. I love the whole reboot concept or the requel or what have you. No, it was a reboot at the time. I like how they try to bring in the new Sydney, and I liked her motives. All right, that's a big problem that this film struggles from. Scream 6, the motive for me doesn't connect, and I thought in Scream 4 the motive made sense, even though it was a little far fetched. It's like, why are you upset with Sydney? What you tripping about? Go sit down somewhere. All right, but I did like it overall. Number 4 for me is Scream 5, the requel. I believe that's what they termed it. I love Scream 5. I thought it was really well executed. It really revitalized the series, in my opinion. I think Scream 6 is why we got it so fast, because I felt like the producers looked at the climate and say, hey, people are excited about the Scream franchise again. Let's jump in before it gets lukewarm. And we were ready. It just didn't deliver, in my personal opinion. I didn't think this was a good outing. So I would say that for me, number 4 is Scream 5. Number 5 of the 6 is Scream 3 for me. I know a lot of people like Scream 3. I'm not one of them. The whole Roman brother of Sydney angle that they tried to push, did not like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of the whole stab series concept. I liked it in the background, but to be like pushed into it the way that they tried to do it, it was decent. But until they tried to make me believe that Roman was like one of the writers or directors of the stab series, right? It just that to me that felt very shoehorned. And the fact that they continue to make stab films within this universe, knowing that one of the producers or whatever's was actually trying to hurt people, just breaks immersion for me. It just breaks it down. I can't believe it. All right, but anyway, I would say number 5 for me is Scream 3, and also the fact that all those deaths that happened in that film were committed by one person. It just didn't really make sense. If you saw that film, you could have sworn there were more than one Ghostface faces, and there was only one that didn't quite make the most sense for me. I hated it. All right, and number 6 of the 6 will be this Scream here. This Scream installment was definitely underwhelming. Even more so, rather, even more so than Scream 3 for me. This film just didn't do it. The cast did not bring it. They just their lines were very very cheesy. Okay, the cheese was just plentiful tonight. I think I felt like a little mouse run past my foot. It was so cheesy. Okay, the dialogue was just wasn't there. I would argue that this installment, Scream 6, felt more like a stab movie. Like if you ever wanted to go see a stab movie, if you ever fantasized about what it would have been like to be in the Scream universe and see a stab movie, this is it. They should have just called this Stab 6 and just, like, hey, this is not canon. This was a bad one for me, y'all. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I know a lot of people want me to say a certain thing. It just wasn't it. All right. Will I see it again? Probably not.